Hello, Bobby Calloway. Hey, thanks everybody for tuning in to Talking with Talent. Hey, I'm still filling in for Jack Sharkey, who's committed on another project. Break a leg to him. Um, Bobby, great to speak with you. I wanted to mention something I've told you before. The corner of Ireland you're working in now, Wicklow, just south of Dublin.
Yeah.
Your corner of Ireland is crowded with talent. Can you crowded with genius is how I phrased it. Both are true. Can you tell us about No Wi-Fi Films, the Northwick and North Wicklow filmmakers, and the community you're part of there?
Okay, cool. For those who don't know, Northwick Filmmakers, or No Wi-Fi, that's the abbreviation we came up with. It's a kind of community of filmmakers and creatives in my area in Ireland, which is Wicklow, and we're kind of basically an hour or so away from Dublin, which is the main kind of hub. Where that's where majority of media is produced. So there's a lot of us who most of our work is in Dublin, so we kind of tend to commute there from where we are, and so um, this was set up in late 2016 by a great guy called Brian Matthews Murphy, who he's an actor and writer, and he was just kind of he was getting sick of doing loads of student films and all this like stuff where he didn't get the footage or they didn't get finished or whatever. So he set up the group kind of with the intent of kind of getting actors that footage that they needed to to put in their reels or just to kind of get the experience as well. And he set it up with a group of people who with like from various different departments. There were other writers, there were other actors, there were DPs, sound people. There was one sound person, and we've now expanded to loads of them. And it's just I think once they started like producing stuff like straight away, and like you can see, and putting it out online, and then like as more and more people heard about it, like more and more people joined it. And I think I joined, I want to say May 2017, and like even since I joined it, I can just it's kind of grown so big now. I mean, like we have art directors, we have composers, we have like color graders, and like there's so much talent that I would not have believed like just existed in like one area. But like, and the great thing is like everyone's really nice, and it's like a real kind of community aspect, so everyone helps each other. And like because I joined mainly as an actor and writer, but there were plenty of projects where I just kind of tagged along like as an extra or do clapboard, and then I've done the edits for a couple of films. Sorry, a couple of films as well. But yeah, it's just like a really great group of people, and we've mainly produced shorts, and we kind of flirted with doing a web series as well. My series, The Gumdrops, was produced kind of in association with them, and now they're this start of this year they were kind of entered pre-production for our first feature film, which is going to be a sort of anthology of different horror films that are kind of say maybe 5 short films shot separately and then all kind of put together into a feature film with a framing device as well. And that's going to be kind of like our sort of stepping stone from just doing shorts to kind of progressing into longer and more kind of bigger productions. So, and I think yeah, pre-production is it kind of did kind of get like paused a bit with the virus and everything, but things are picking up right now, and I think they're casting at the moment. So I think the deadline is today for submitting for your details to be considered for the audition. Yeah.
Oh, well, great like to everybody participating.
Hmm.
Hey, and speaking of the Gumdrops, great, clever series. I love the part of having that great pool of talent and that community you're hooked up with is that you spot actors you want to work with, and you write a character suited to their quirks and their personality. How has that been? That must be a really fun part of the Gumdrops. Who are some of the actors you've recruited for this great project, and how has that been?
Oh, cool. Yeah. So the Gumdrops, it's a mini series. Well, yeah, it's a comedy series for the web, and just about wacky students, kind of loosely based on my own experiences in college. And the first actress who kind of helped make it what it is Rebecca Rose Flynn, who I was lucky enough to work with in a feature film called Spears earlier in this year, and she tends to play the serious, dramatic girl next door roles, and she does them fantastically. She's a brilliant actress. But out of character, she is hysterical. She's so funny, and I was like, you should play someone funny, because I saw her do a comedy film called Heist where she was playing the serious one. I was like, oh, come on, I wanted to see her kind of play someone like a bit kind of all over the place and just kind of see what she could do with it. And so that role was written specifically for her. That's the character of Laura, who is sort of like the quirky ringleader of the group. And then there's a character called Sadia, who was also written for another good friend of mine who is also in Spears, called Kyra Tiovera, like a really great actress from Venezuela, who again kind of tends to play serious roles. But I did an acting class with her, and I saw her read a scene from Bridesmaids, and it's like, oh, she can be funny as well. And again, I wrote her as kind of like sort of like this sort of like mad prankster, because my favorite moment in the series so far is one of the girls' boyfriends comes to the house for the first time, and he just knocks on the door, and Sadia answers, and she just pretends she can't speak English. She goes, "Yo no hablo inglés," and slams the door in his face because he's late. And yeah, and the other two actresses playing the students, the roles weren't written for them, but they kind of came to it later. We had Ingrid Igo as Roisin, who's sort of like the grumpy, deadpan snarker of the group, and I think Ingrid because I used to wrestle as well, and Ingrid was previously a wrestler and ring announcer, and after she saw that I was kind of acting as well, she was asking me, like, oh, can I get involved with this kind of industry as well? And I was like, oh yeah, sure, like I'll keep you in mind. And eventually when the Gumdrops came out, I was like wondering who would play Roisin, and I was like, what if Ingrid did this? I think I had 3 scripts to send her, and she read them and kind of said yes straight away. And like when she came to the first table read, obviously I was kind of wondering how she would kind of fit into this, because everyone else would kind of I think would have had more kind of typical experience, whereas her experience would have been wrestling and that kind of performing. But she was perfect. Like as soon as I heard her say the lines, and the second episode we filmed was it was pretty much just me and her for a good part of it. So I just loved working with her. And yeah, there's just one moment in the episode, it's called Party Animals, where I guest star as her mad cousin, and at one point I just say something really stupid over the phone, and I just kind of happily hand the phone back to her, and she just has this look on her face. She's like, just takes the phone back. And like for weeks I could just watch that clip back, just like of her taking the phone back, and I just lose it laughing. Yeah, and so far she's everyone's favorite character, but we have to, because we haven't been able to film as many episodes, so it just happens. So she's been in the most episodes, but we have like loads of other great people as well who really have to show what they can do. There's the fourth girl who I actually interviewed yesterday, Ellen Jones. She's plays Lindsay, who's sort of the sweet, angel who just kind of ends up in these mad situations and kind of maybe thinks she's above everyone else, but kind of isn't, and kind of enjoys being sucked into the madness as well. And Ellen I've known quite a while, and I think I actually showed her some of the scripts beforehand, before she was even being considered, just thinking, oh, do you think this is funny at all? And she actually told me yesterday that it was I offered her the role on her birthday.
Oh, I love when timing is like that. That's great.
And we have a couple of other great cast members in there as well, because the landlady Nora, she seems to be a lot of people's favorite character as well, which I'm glad of, because her actress is Sandy Brown, who actually is from completely the other end of the country. She's up in Belfast, and the part was written for another actress who was a bit closer to home, but she had to just drop out, too busy with other projects. And so I'd done an acting class with Sandy, and I'd written a few things for her, but I've never been able to get them made. So I said, oh, do you want to do this? And I was like, oh, sorry, you're probably going to have to travel a lot, and, it's probably going to be long days. And she's like, oh, no, perfect, I'll do this. And, she was, so far she's been in 3 episodes, and she's happily come down each time, and she's just been great. And then there's the guys as well. There's James Byrne playing Pete, Lindsay's boyfriend, who he's one of the funniest members of the cast, and it's so weird he's playing the normal one. So I've worked with him in a short film called Screw Us before, and he's great. And We have Corey Patton playing the boyfriend Robbie, who he's only done one episode so far, but so we're really waiting to see what he can do.
Okay, yeah, yeah, he was good in that. I, he manages, not the spoiler there, he manages to hit quite a high note in at least some of the behind the scenes thing. To the shock of onlookers, I, did you engineer that moment of surprise that?
I don't know. I think because well, obviously it was written in the script that he screams, and I was like, okay, Corey, you're gonna have to like scream really high pitched. But we'd stopped filming at that point, so we were just like getting the sound of the scream. And like he did a couple, and Rian, our DP, was like, I was like, oh no, we'll get a few just for safety. And so I kept saying, oh, louder, louder. And like at the very last one, you can just like see Rebecca like just kind of like going, because that's just her reaction's just perfectly on point. And after all that hell I put him through with all those screams, the first take was the one I used in the edit.
Yeah, still worth it. Still worth it for that real. And I'll include links to the just great work. And it's funny you mentioned the wrestling because, you know, thank you again. You were a guest earlier on Talking with Talent, and I knew you and Jack Sharkey would hit it off great. And I figured you'd bond over a mutual love of film and classic film. And what it was when you mentioned your work in professional wrestling, and you mentioned, and you could just see Jack light up, and it's like, okay, I didn't call that one. I knew you guys had hit it off. I didn't realize what would be the point. Yeah, I thought that was great. And just for some American viewers who don't realize, it's a tremendous professional wrestling culture in both Britain and Ireland. Mm-hmm. And you were part of it in Ireland, right?
Or yeah, just in Ireland, yeah, for about 4 years.
Very cool. Very nice. And I'm sorry, it was an injury that prompted you to get out of that, right? I mean,
yeah, it was a mixture of things. Kind of, yeah, I tore my ACL, and there was just kind of a bunch of other stuff going on, and so, but you know, I found acting, and that was kind of the life after wrestling for me. So I'm happy, like acting anyway, and it's amazing to see that wrestling has grown so much compared to how it was when I was in that, you know. And yeah, and it's amazing, like the people that I trained with, you know, they have like their own fan bases now, and like there's like a dedicated group of people who go to the shows, and that's amazing to see, because back when I was there, it was considered a good day if you got 200 people in like a GA hall, you know, and they were just like parents who just brought their kids along thinking they would enjoy this, but you know, like now as actual fans and like merchandise, and like, yeah, it's great.
Oh, good for them. Yeah, it is. Yeah, you can see some of them hawking their shirts and, you know, custom gear stuff. There's, yeah, a dedicated fan base. It's something to see. And a number of those wrestlers, by the way, have been actors who took that up on the side to, you know, a lot of people have straddled both worlds.
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah. Because there is a performance aspect to it as well. Because I trained with, well, I didn't train with, but I knew 2 other wrestlers kind of they were starting out when I was there, but they had acting experience as well. So they kind of obviously used that to kind of incorporate that into their character as well. So that was a big help for them, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And when you mentioned Skrios, a fantastic film, it reliant. Try not to spoil it because it's a horror film. It's a great short, and it communicates so much, mainly visually, because there isn't a ton in the way of dialogue. So it's just magnificently shot and well performed. Is this what I notice in British independent film is that the young actors making, because it tends to be actor directors and actor writers, the actors making kind of gravitate towards crime dramas and you know, the gritty underworld, you know, mob enforcer type roles. And there's an element of that in Irish film, but there also is a very strong horror element. In Wicklow, what tends to be the predominant genre that you guys are drawn to?
I don't know actually. There seems to be a mix, you know, because that Skrios was made with no Wi-Fi as well, and it was part of an autumn film challenge, and I think we had a Halloween screening coming up, so there was a few people kind of produced horror films to be shown at that. So I think that might have kind of influenced that genre, but I do see a lot of horror being produced as well. I think in Dublin, yeah, you're exactly right. There's a lot of kind of gritty dramas, you know, like about drugs and gangs, and then there's obviously kind of a lot of sort of social dramas, you know, just like about kind of navigating like what it's like in Dublin and working in Dublin. And in Wicklow, I guess because we have like the rural scenery, then there tends to be kind of maybe something a bit more fantastical, like and maybe more period dramas as well. But yeah, that's an interesting question because yeah, I noticed I've kind of drifted towards doing more genre stuff because my first couple of shorts were just kind of family dramas, but then I love making things a bit weirder and kind of a bit more out there. So because we have the locations to pull that off.
Yeah, that's great. It is a very scenic area that you're in. I've seen the stills and the background, the shots of the scenery, the locations are beautiful. It's a beautiful spot. Um, there, there was Skrios. There are a number of other projects I wanted to ask you about, but I also wanted to ask you about your channel, Better with Bob, where you do film commentary. I'm addicted to that.
Oh,
You talk about, and I'll say classic film in a very broad way because it runs into the 1990s
yeah.
of standards of people, but very strong in the 30s to the 60s. Um, did you grow up listening, watching classic film, or is this something you discovered on your own as an adult, or how did you come upon this love of old Hollywood and history?
Yeah, I think I can remember watching a few classic films as a kid. Obviously, the old Disney films, you know, like for Snow White and Pinocchio and like Peter Pan and Alice in Wonderland. They were all like from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And I can remember watching The Wizard of Oz when I was a child as well. And I think my mother would have always been a big fan of classic films, and my dad obviously with his love of westerns. So there would have been that influence. But then I think I can remember it sort of. I can remember actually reading a book when I was, I think I want to say 12, 13, maybe 14, by Barry Norman called The Hollywood Greats about just like kind of talking about like the life of the stars of those days and kind of finding out what happened. And so I think I started watching a few of the films that were described in the book to kind of get a sense of what was going on. And I think as I got older, again, I just started kind of loving all these classic films as well. And again, I think I was compelled to make video essays where it was yeah, it was Flower Drum Song that I did the first my first video on, where because it was it kind of in some ways it hasn't aged well because it's you know, depiction of Asian Americans from the 1960s from an industry that hadn't necessarily represented them before. But yeah, there was a playwright called David Henry Hwang. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. And he said that he's Asian American, and he says that growing up, Flower Drum Song was one of the few kind of positive depictions he had of people who looked like him. And he said it was really amazing to him that you know, people who looked like him were in the story, and they were portrayed as you know, a mixture of people who had come from China, you know, and they had the traditional Chinese values, and then there were also people who had grown up in Chinatown, like with the American values as well, and how the story was all about like finding your cultural identity. And he said that really kind of spoke to him a lot growing up. And so obviously, while we're kind of moving forward towards better representation for Asians in film today, although we could use a lot more. The fact that Flower Drum Song was the first Hollywood film to have mostly an all Asian cast, and it used genuine Asian performers, and I think for a lot of the talent, that was one of the only times they really got to play lead roles that weren't necessarily that stereotypical. So I thought it was kind of like interesting to kind of contextualize it like from the standards of its time compared to our time. And I guess I always love kind of like watching something that was made back then and kind of um, it was teaching us a lesson that we needed to learn back then that we might maybe take for granted now. Because it used to be a guilty pleasure, and you actually helped put me right on this, where it was The World of Susie Wong, and I said, hasn't really aged well. And you said, oh no, it's aged just fine. And then I watched it back, and I just kind of realized the message of this film, like, obviously carries the values of the 60s, but like I really love the message of this film, and like what a performance by Nancy Kwan as well, and by the guy that sounds just like you, William Holden.
Uh, a high compliment. Thank you, Bobby.
And yeah, so it was those were my first two video essays, and I kind of I think I had planned other ones like kind of on more contemporary films, but then I thought, okay, like classic film could be like my kind of my niche anyway. Although I think I did kind of like tweak the rules a little when talking about The Little Mermaid and Pocahontas, because I just really wanted to talk about them, and because it's I had a very it's a very sad crush as a teenager. I had a crush on Ariel, the character from The Little Mermaid, and I loved how she saved the prince's life, and she was like really active in her story. And then when I discovered the internet, people were kind of complaining that she was anti-feminist because she wanted a man, and so I just started to. So I made a video called "Stop Slut Shaming Ariel," kind of detailing, the criticism and whether I think it's valid. And I didn't kind of get like a lot of reaction when it first went up, and now, like especially this year, I've been suddenly getting loads of comments like agreeing with me and saying, "Oh, thank you for saying this about Ariel. She was my favorite character. Like, thank you for defending her." So that means a lot to me.
I'm very glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. It's great when you seize upon a message and you realize it was important to you, but there is a group of people out there for whom it was also a big deal. So that part's good, and I want to emphasize for people who are either history buffs, which I am a bit, and film lovers, which I also, a lot of the films you've talked about, I remember seeing and enjoyed, and a number of titles you talk about, you're introducing me to for the first time.
Really?
And
Which
it's
ones?
really great. And I want to emphasize for people, it's interesting and you incidentally get all this information, but the truth is, you're a fantastic storyteller, and it's just enjoyable to hear a knowledgeable person talk about a subject they love and just you as a viewer you lose yourself in the story, and it's a great experience, and people need to check out that channel. It's really good. So and I learned something new about films I thought I knew, and I get a new appreciation for them. So thank you for doing that channel. It's fantastic.
Oh, thank you for watching, because I think I've learned a few things just from because you've shared your thoughts as well, and I think I've learned plenty of stuff from you as well.
Oh,
Because
well,
I
we,
remember when I put up the one, because lately I'm doing a video, kind of a series of videos, like just analyzing the characters from Carrie. I think remember you said that something Sue says in the book, and you said that kind of perfectly captures like the zeitgeist of the 70s in a way that maybe modern viewers wouldn't have noticed.
oh yeah, and yeah, it's and part of it is I'm maybe 20 years older, so I have a I can remember people from that era being interviewed in the 80s about the films and stuff like that. So I have closer to it. It's not that I'm more knowledgeable. It's just that I happen to be around during when some people were on late night talk shows being interviewed. Um, um, Farrow being interviewed about her mother Maureen O'Sullivan and her days in the Tarzan films, and the bizarre the bizarre sort of competitive situation she was in with Cheetah, because Cheetah was like it was such a bizarre story. But it's like think Maureen O'Sullivan's theory was people should look up that thing for Farrell was on David Letterman talking about how her mom's theory was that the chimps were had sort of a territorial claim on Weissmuller, so they were in competition with Jane. It was a very bizarre sort of theory, but no, I love having those conversations about the material, and I hope I'm not a jerk. but because I would never think of it as disagreeing with you. I always like to see different ways of looking at this material, and I do remember that standing out. Another thing I loved was you're doing video after video examining Carrie and the treatments it's gotten, which I've forgotten. It's gotten several different cinematic takes on this.
Yeah,
Uh,
3 I think, and we have an FX series on the way as well.
oh, okay, good.
Hopefully, I don't age out of the role by the time they come around casting. So,
Oh yeah, fingers crossed. That'd be good.
mm,
Then we'll break a leg, man. That, um, but yeah, Stephen King could. That was the weird. That was another thing I kind of remember stories from the '70s. I what he captured was it was bizarrely on the nose, and he was able to just sort of, oh, here's a really good horror story, and by the way, and he just captures um, uh, hostility to racial integration in the early '70s, and we sort of forget that was very much a big issue then. But it was it's a strange thing. It's not what you expected to be part of a telekinetic teenager story,
mm.
but there it is in the background, part of the noise of pop culture. But, now, and sadly, just to acknowledge it, recently, a few days ago, Olivia de Havilland passed away.
Oh yeah.
And I know you went to revisit some of her films, and you chose. Tell us about the film you chose and what you like.
The Snake Pit.
Snake Pit. Love
Yeah,
that movie.
because I'd heard about it before. I'd never actually seen it, but then I'd heard the fact that it was kind of a bit revolutionary in how it kind of showed the mental health system. So I was definitely thinking, oh yeah, I can definitely make a video on this in the future because I have drafted a sorry drafted a video for one on drafted a script for a video on Now Voyager as well, which kind of was a few years before that. So that was kind of again similar about the mental health system in a way. And so it was like really kind of fascinating just to kind of see like a film showing what it was like at the time because I still have to do more research anyway. But I think it was based on a real woman's like experiences. Like she wrote a book based off her own experiences suffering from schizophrenia and how she was in an asylum. And I read that I think the film compelled about 13 states to change their laws regarding the treatment of mental patients. I'm not sure. It's kind of I've kind of only just like skimmed through the facts, but I can have to do a bit more research before I can stand behind that. But
That's great. Well, it's fantastic when a film has a good influence. And
mhm.
for Snake Pit to have changed laws that desperately needed to be changed is fantastic. It's a nice counterpoint to something like Birth of a Nation, which sort of revitalized the KKK. I mean, not all
Yeah.
films result in great things socially,
Mhm.
but I didn't know that about Snake Pit, that it helped improve treatment of people. That reminds me of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Now, I believe that was also based on a book from somebody who had, I'll call it, survived mental health treatment in a little bit later, but not, still came out with some horror stories. But so it's interesting to know that that is based on then somebody's actual
Mhm.
experience. Was that the bird? Spoiler, but it's a fantastic scene with the Sweet Georgia Brown, where they have the. So I think there was more than one version of Snake Pit where there's like a dancing scene where there's a rug and they're told they can't step on this rug or some weird thing.
Oh yeah, I remember that scene.
Yeah,
And I think oh yeah, I just remembered that all the cast and crew they were told they had to do all this research before they did the film as well. They had to like attend lectures and to kind of like watch treatments and I think with permission, of course, they also sat in on therapy sessions because there's a scene in the film where I think at the hospital they just have like a little dance for like the male and female patients to dance together. I think there was one critic who just kind of like said, "Oh, that wouldn't happen." And then Olivia de Havilland called him up personally to say that she had seen such a thing like one of the places she went to, so it did happen.
Wow. Well, good for her. That is fantastic. Now, did she also make an appearance in some of the British horror films? Or
I
am
think
I?
so. Um, was Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte was American, wasn't it? Was
I
Lady in a
can
Cage
see that.
British? I don't know.
I think I I have a hard time picturing. I think it might have been um, set in the States. It's hard to tell when my. It's been a while since I've seen it, but they also had that so-called Mid-Atlantic accent,
Oh
where
yeah,
a little bit American Wasp and a little bit British, and it's like I don't know where it's
yeah.
supposed
I
to.
know her sister was in a British. Her last film was a British horror film. Yeah,
Okay, that's where I'm
witches.
messing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting wrong.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
crossing the two of them together. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just remembering that scene towards the end, where it's the orgy scene where they're all like doing this. They have like all these middle-aged people doing this like mad interpretive dance.
Oh, they meant well. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, that's um, yeah. Not everybody is cast the way you would think. That's sort of the age range that they get for people to play high school students, isn't it? They're maybe 20 or 30 years older than you would think that high school
Oh yeah.
seniors would be.
Yeah. I think sometimes they can actually pass for it because have you seen Derry Girls?
Oh, no, I keep hearing about it.
One
That's
of the Yeah, one of the actresses playing the teenagers, she's 31 like in the first season, but like and like when I tell people like that it's her who's 31, I was like I would not have guessed it.
oh, so you knew, you looked and you knew.
Oh no, like I read it. So
Oh,
I
okay.
read that she was 31. So and she talks about how she's on set and obviously they're all like in the school uniform and like it's all like actors playing the teenagers are separated from the actors playing the teachers or whatever and they got into the habit of like referring to the teachers as the adults and she would say the adults and they were like you're an adult as well.
That's hilarious. That's hugely pop. Now I don't know. So I don't have my ear to the ground too much on the Americans. I know that Dairy Girls is hugely popular both in Ireland and in the UK. I get the it's on channels that service both countries. So
Mhm.
so I keep hearing about it. So I'll have to tune in, find out who's carrying it here in the states.
Yeah, it's on Netflix, I think.
Oh, okay, good. Then I'll renew my membership and get up to date
Yeah.
on.
I think the actresses said it was actually a hit in I think I can't remember the name of the country. I think it was Afghanistan, or it was sort of like countries kind of like that are maybe kind of like undergoing conflict at the moment, and the actresses say that they get messages from teenagers who can kind of relate to the fact of like growing up like in the middle of a conflict, but still like trying to finding ways to be a teenager and still live your life
Wow.
because it's set like in the 90s, like when the troubles were happening in Northern Ireland, and because like the writer Lisa McGee, she's from Derry, so she kind of like draws from her own experiences, like like even though there was all this kind of conflict going on, they still kind of found ways to live their lives, and there's like comedy that comes from like people complaining that bomb scares are making them miss nail appointments, or
You forget people live normal lives in the midst of this tragedy and weirdness, conflict and break. That, now I definitely have to check that out. That has to be incredible for them to hear from people in Afghanistan that their work is relatable. That's that's. I'm sure that it'll have an audience for those who can remember being in the Balkans in the 1990s. Probably some weirdly similar things.
yeah, it's weird how kind of you can never really predict like what demographic is going to love whatever you put out there. Because I have my guest here. No, you probably can't see it with the light.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and because I found out a few years ago that My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic was there was like a huge section of people in the military who watched it together. Like loads of people like watched it like on in I think I can't remember where they were, but I just in like the whole units would watch the whole show and just they would just love it, which is you would not expect like such a cartoon like that to be a hit with people in the military.
Yeah, it's funny, yeah, when you try, okay, now guess the people this is going to be a hit with. It's probably not going to make your top three, but it is funny uh, the way a work will find its audience.
Mhm.
Now, Ireland recently has produced a number of war films. Now, and it's interesting to see how when they do when they picture future conflicts, it's usually Ireland involved in a wider European controversy. And I know you were involved in one called High and Tight, where so largely has been a civilian population that sometimes is involved in police action and securing the peace in places like the former Yugoslavia. Um, how was that writing that script? And I know Corey Patton's been involved in a recent one as well. But what were the issues you wanted to address in that one in High and Tight?
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of tweaking things a bit, just because I just finished watching Band of Brothers, and I really wanted to play a soldier. So, and I realized, if I have to film it over here, it's going to have to be set in like a hypothetical future where Ireland has entered the war, where that we're a neutral country, thank God, but touch wood. Yeah, so it's a hypothetical war in the future what that Ireland has entered, and I guess I kind of drew on this. The sort of feeling I was feeling at the time, kind of it's like, oh, I'm not doing anything with my life, I'm not, I don't have a purpose here. So I think I maybe put that into the character perspective of a character who, again, was kind of not really sure what his place in life was, but kind of joined the army as a way to kind of give himself a purpose in life and maybe kind of find that's his calling, and obviously kind of creates the conflict with his brothers and all the other friends as well who join as well. There's like stuff going on in their lives that they're all kind of like compelled to join for their own particular reason. And I think I was maybe inspired by, remember From Here to Eternity, where Montgomery Clift's character says that after he lost his parents, the army was kind of what straightened him out and kind of gave him that discipline. So I kind of was really drawn to the idea of someone kind of trying to find their purpose in a place that maybe you wouldn't necessarily have maybe look for it, but and yeah, that was probably one of my favorite characters that I've played so far, and I think because it took me a while to kind of finally get around to making it because I wrote it 2015, didn't actually get it made until 2018, so I had a lot of time with that character in my head. So I don't think I don't know if ever since I've finished that film I've put as much into another character since then. So I'm looking for a character that can kind of draw me the way that character did. And yeah, and obviously my friend Zach Gould made What I Stand For, which you mentioned as well. Which that started out as a script I wrote, but we never got the film finished, and he kind of made his own script, which was so much better, and kind of made his own version, which I helped out on as well, and that was really fun. And we joke that it takes place in the same universe, so we say, oh, we should make a sequel where the two characters run into each other.
Why not? That would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be um, two compelling things, and I appreciate your self-deprecation about uh, your script, which I'm sure was outstanding as well. Um, and thanks for the introduction, Zach. Zach Gould is a great soul as well as a great filmmaker. Again, the talent in Ireland is I'm surprised that there's talent, but it's really great the concentration of talent in your area, and I'm really glad that no Wi-Fi has helped that come to light. And that seems to be a theme in filmmaking is people getting out there and don't always wait for the callback. Sometimes just go out and make your own work, and that seems to be a recurring theme. Is that something you believe in?
Yeah, sure. I think I had to learn pretty quickly when I started going out on auditions regularly, and I think some people kind of still haven't necessarily learned that lesson. Where it's like I say, okay, once I've left the audition, it's out of my head. It's like I tell myself I haven't got it unless they call me. So I just I don't spend my time waiting around, kind of like hoping, oh, hope I get this. Even though sometimes I do at the back of my head. I'm like, okay, yeah, I hope I do get this, but it's like you got to focus on getting the next one or the one after that. And it got to the point where sometimes I get rejection emails from things I don't even remember applying for.
That is a really daunting part of the acting industry. That, like you said, that there's the rejection, and we tend to think of it as rejection, but it's the not even hearing one way or another until a year later they do the promotional, and you say, oh, so and so got it. Maybe somebody maybe somebody you've never seen before. But that's generally how you found out you didn't get the part was, the movie comes out. Um, but and it's been fascinating to see how different actors find ways um, to really deal with and live very well with, yeah, they're looking for something else. And, I'm not going to check every box. And they're able to move on. It isn't, it's fascinating that it isn't, because outside of the industry, you think, well, this must be devastating. And it really does seem to be, and each person has their own sort of mantra. Well, they were looking for somebody else, and it's water off a duck's back, as the saying goes. And uh, did you seize upon your own way of just kind of rolling along with it, or was it advice from somebody, or did it just kind of come naturally? How you
I
deal
think
with
it was kind of a mixture as well, because I owe a lot of things to my mentor Ross Grant, who runs a website called Act on This TV, kind of coaches us all on a mindset and how we have to stay sane in this industry. And I think the scenario I always kind of came up with in my head was that it's like you go to a toy shop, and if you're a child like me, you want to leave with everything in there. You want to just like grab everything off the shelf and leave with everything. But the sad thing is you can't. You can only go in there for the one thing you specifically wanted. And the thing you pick, okay, it doesn't necessarily mean that everything else in the shop is bad. It's just it's not what you're looking for. It's not what you need right now. It's just that you can't take it on. So I kind of I kind of tell that to myself to kind of make the rejection a bit easier to take. Although it does, like obviously being rejected does hurt, but it's just focus on everything else and finding the next thing. And it's like because I remember in my first year of auditioning where it was kind of a culmination of like months of auditioning and getting nothing. And there was this one play that you would have loved it. It was like a film noir kind of parody as well. So I went all out for the audition. I was like creating my own monologue and like getting the accent right. Like the kind of typical New York gangster accent, I think it was. And even in my first audition, they said I was very impressive because I said I used to be a wrestler in the auditions. So they asked me to kind of do an entrance for them, and that was really fun. And I bombed the callback. I would just, I could feel it slipping away as I was doing it.
it?
And like even just like a few hours later, they said, "Oh yeah, like you weren't cast." And it really did kind of it broke my heart at the time. And I just remember thinking, "Oh God, can I keep doing this?" And then I kind of let myself like be like that for a few minutes, and then there was a voice in my head that said, "Well, what else are you gonna do?" And kind of shortly after that, I kind of finally did start getting stuff. And at one point, I was doing something every week, and I ended up getting cast in another play called King Lear, which I've probably talked about so many times. And the experience of that really kind of helped get me more confidence as an actor, anyway. And so I now kind of realize if I had gotten that first thing, then I wouldn't necessarily have had these other things that ended up helping me out a lot. So I think everything kind of does happen for a reason in a sense, or at least that's what I tell myself.
I like that thinking, and I've seen clips of you in Shakespearean productions, and it's very it's a very Tarantino kind of scene. You know, it's like, okay, I forgot there's that aspect of Shakespeare, that it's there is some violence in there. There is
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it was like Tarantino stuff. Some of it gets kind of hard to watch. It's
Mm-hmm.
that graphic, but it's really well done. a lot of times that happens with actors. They miss a role, but it means that a week later or a month later, they're available for something else incredible. So it is hard to deny. You know, it's very easy to believe that something else is at work. You know, so I think it's easy to be superstitious in that profession because you just kind of serendipity can play such a large role in it.
Yeah, it's like a weird kind of chain reaction of events because obviously my friend Adam Douglas, who I've only kind of known this year. I would have known him from seeing him in the Nutters, but then it was a weird combination of events where I had just wrapped on Spears back in January, and Jordan Lennon was asking me to kind of come down and do this short film in his college. So I finished up on and Donegal, like traveled all the way down to Coolock, and was just like waiting around in the cafeteria. And across the room, I see it. It's like that guy looks familiar. Is that Adam from the Nutters? And I think yeah, we were all in like this group chat with Greg that Greg has for his sessions, and I'd never spoken to Adam before, and so I said, "Oh, Adam, I think I may have seen you in this place earlier," and eventually got talking from there. And when Mr. Peterson was filming, and they needed actors to play these kind of two dim-witted Dublin scumbags, I said, "Oh, hey, you want me to recommend you for this part?" And that's how we kind of got to know each other. And now I'm always like, when I'm writing stuff, I'm always kind of considering, oh, can Adam play this or whatever? So it's just like how that kind of weird combination of events leads to me discovering someone else and finding someone else to work with. And then if people see him in, like, already people have seen him in Mr. Peterson and think, oh, he's quite good, you know? So, yeah. Sorry, I don't know what I was saying there. I kind of just rambled off on tangents there, as I sometimes do.
No, but it's always informative, and it plays on the part that luck sort of increases itself. The more you step out, the more it leads to other things, and that clearly is something that happened in your work with Adam there. It is interesting that the chain of events that can lead to somebody being a recurring character in a web series or being part of a cruise based on recognizing somebody on set. That's pretty cool. So no, it perfectly fit the theme of serendipity, just apparent randomness, but it is interesting to see that at work, how that how people, what brings people together to finally create something in this, on the same set. So I'm glad to hear that you're working on a Better with Bob treatment of Snake Pit. I really look forward to that. I've already learned more about that film than I knew before. I didn't know the background, that it was based on a woman's experience, and that you got that feeling watching it. You're like, yeah, this could happen. This unfortunately, probably has happened to a number of people. God, another great classic people should check out that one, and then go see Better with Bob and hear about it afterwards. I look forward to your video.
It's going to take me a while to make the video, so you guys have plenty of time to check out the film.
Okay, good. All right. Well, I urge people to check out your work wherever you're doing it. I'll include a ton of links. I look forward to talking to you again. I love hearing you talk about film, and I hope we get to talk again soon, because I love hearing your projects and hearing your thoughts on the classics. Because you're
I love hearing your thoughts as well.
Thank you very much, Bobby. Well, break a leg in everything you're doing, and again, thanks for joining us. Have a good one, everyone.